Paul here from My Perfect Failure, helping you turn your failures into successes and your setbacks into opportunities. What if I told you that being 6 figures in debt could be a gateway to discovering your true power? Today I'm joined by Valerie Herrel, a woman who emigrated to America, chasing dreams, only to lose everything: her financial stability, her sense of direction, and nearly her hope. But what happened next will challenge everything you think you know about failure. In this conversation, Valerie reveals how a life-changing trip to Boulder, Colorado, and a single book unlocked her ability to manifest her reality. Valerie shares the internal compass we all possess but rarely use. By leaving everything behind, her job, her relationship was the key to her breakthrough, and how she transforms people from unconscious to conscious manifestors. Valerie's smile today is so radiant because she's walked through the fire and emerged as the artist of her own life. So if you're ready to discover your own North Star and learn how your internal reality creates your external world, press play wherever you get your podcasts.
Who knows what Jay-Z, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey all have in common? Okay, I will tell you then. They have all overcome failure in one shape or form to go on to gain success in their respective careers. Welcome to My Perfect Failure. Join us as we delve into the world of our perfect failures. We will interview, explore, and discuss how our perfect failures can lead us to success. Join us and tune in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of My Perfect Failure. Today I'm super excited because I have another amazing guest for you. So my guest today is a manifestation coach and wealth creation expert dedicated to helping people unlock their true potential and manifest abundance in all areas of their lives, from overcoming personal and financial challenges to creating a thriving 7-figure life. She empowers people with actionable tools, mindset shifts, and a spiritual insight to design the life of their dreams. Her mission is to inspire and guide others on their journey of abundance, purpose, and fulfillment. That sounds like the perfect journey to me. So a very warm welcome to My Perfect Failure, Valerie Herrel. How are you?
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure for being here today.
Well, I'm super, I do say this, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. I've already said it, I'm going to say it again, because you've got a fascinating journey, very inspiring journey. And I love the work that you're doing now. I love researching your journey. I don't know heaps about you, but what I did cover, I thought, okay, wow, I'm excited to have a conversation with you and just
Me
be
too.
inspired and educated and learn. So we hear a lot about manifestation, and obviously you're a coach, you're an expert in this field. But I think for people that are unfamiliar with Valerie, it's probably prudent maybe to give people a backdrop to how manifestation entered your life. Actually, I as I was researching you, I learned that you were born in Europe. So I'm in the
Yes.
UK, not Belgium, but you're born in Belgium.
Yes, I'm born and raised in Belgium. And I actually moved to the US back in 2007. So yes, born and raised.
Oh wow. So not too far away. One of my best friend, his family are from Belgium, although he's born here, his parentage is Belgium. And do you speak a number of different languages?
Yes. So back in Belgium, we speak Flemish and French. And then usually people learn English and then sometimes even German or other languages. So most people in Belgium speak 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 languages. So
Wow.
it's pretty incredible. Yes.
Okay. I feel slightly in theory, I only got one, but there's still time. There's still time. Yeah. So that backdrop, it'd be lovely to capture the backdrop to what led you to becoming this wonderful manifestation coach that you are today.
Yeah. So honestly, if I told my story, I think I'd be here for 5 hours, but I'll try the more condensed version.
Okay.
So, when I was little and I was living back in Belgium with my mom, my dad, and my sister, we actually got the news that my dad was suffering with terminal cancer. And just a few months had passed after we got that news. He actually ended up passing away. And so, if that wasn't already difficult enough for me to go through, on top of that, my mom got laid off after 36 years of employment. So, here I lost my dad. My mom gets unemployed. She's left with two little kids. I was 9 at the time. My sister was 10. And come to find out, I thought we were living a pretty wealthy lifestyle. My dad was a doctor. We were living in a 6-story home in the middle of the city center. On the weekends, we would go to opera and eat fancy dinners. But come to find out, my parents had never built true wealth. My dad was always living paycheck to paycheck, patient to patient, and whatever money they had coming in, they would spend. And so after tons of medical bills, etc., my mom got left with two little kids and absolutely no money. So, for a fresh new start, my mom decided it would be a great opportunity for us to move to America to pursue the American dream. So when I came to America, I thought, let's go and pursue the American dream. Let's see what I can make of myself and my life. But it wasn't without struggle because when we came here, we didn't even have money to buy furniture. I remember, like, my mom and I in the beginning, when we got a little rental property together, me and my mom were sleeping together on one mattress. We didn't even have money to buy sofas and a dining room set, etc. And so back then, I was like really at my bottom. I felt like I had lost it all. I felt like my life was a total failure. I felt like I would never be able to recover from this. But then there was something that awakened deep within me that was like this little candle that was burning. And I knew that candle wanted to be recognized and wanted to burn like a big flame. And it was that fire within my soul that said, you can make something of yourself. You can make something of your life. You can become financially independent. Yes, you can save yourself from this mess that you're in right now, and you can choose to overcome this. So after lots of struggles, back in 2019 was the year where I had had my absolute rock bottom. In 2019, at this point, I'm an adult, but at this point, I haven't figured out life, and I was 6 figures in personal debt. I had all of my credit cards maxed out. I had my mom's credit cards maxed out. I was literally 6 figures in debt. And I was like, when am I going to be able to crawl myself out of this hole? And it was then that there was like a light bulb that went off in me and said, you need to go to Boulder, Colorado and just take a break from life. And it was funny. I went to Boulder, Colorado just for a weekend, again, on my credit card. And when I got there, there was like, I was walking along the street and there was this little bookstore that like called my name. And as I entered this bookstore, I knew like this intrinsically that there would be a book that could change my life. And so I was like walking through the aisles of the bookstore, and then I found this little tiny little book nestled in between some other books. And it was a Nevile Goddard book. Actually, I have it right here. The Power of Unlimited Imagination by Nevile Goddard.
Okay, amazing.
And this is literally the book that changed everything for me because I went to a little coffee shop. I started reading this book, and it was like something activated on a cellular level within me, like a deep remembrance of, okay, I am the creator of my own reality. The reality that I've created in the present moment was created from my past. But my future is actually created from the present moment. It's not created from the past. And I can choose to create a new reality. So it was with those teachings through trial and error that I learned my way through lots of failures and then came out of it really nicely in the end where I'm now living my dream life. But it was really that changed everything. A, being at my rock bottom, B, discovering that I am my own creator. And then with the principles of that book, it just launched me into my future. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, phenomenal journey. Do you ever think back to what was that birth that got you to think Boulder, Colorado, sorry, and to take that trip? Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I do feel like we're guided. I feel like we're guided. My dad has passed, but more than ever before, I feel incredibly connected to him. Like after his passing, I feel like he's still here guiding me along my journey and guiding me along my path. And so it was crazy because that year, back in 2019, when I decided to go to Denver, Colorado, I also had other nudges. I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. Then I went onto a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I started reading Joe Dispenza books. And it was all of those nudges that I had that allowed me to just shift my reality into what it is today. So I do feel like we're guided from within, right? Our own gut instinct, our own compass, our internal compass. But I do feel like there's a greater source, in the non-physical realm that is 100% guiding us through our journey.
Okay, okay. I'm going to get into that in a second. So I think this is one of your interviews. I'm sure you mentioned, I'm presuming this possibly was around the same time that you had a corporate job, you weren't loving the corporate job, and you decided to leave the corporate job. Was this all around the same time?
Yes, this was actually, I had already left the corporate job at this time, but yes, when you come to America, they sell you the American dream and you think you need the white picket fence and you need to climb the corporate ladder and you're going to become successful that way. But when I started my corporate job, I felt trapped, like in a cage. Like I felt like I was just a hamster on the hamster wheel. I still remember my first year, I didn't get a single vacation day off. That was corporate America at that time. And they
Crazy.
were they were working me like crazy on the holidays. We didn't have holidays off. Sometimes I worked 22-hour shifts. 22-hour shifts. And so after 5 years in that job, I got so depressed that I got to the point where I was just debilitating in my depression that I couldn't get up anymore. And I had to go on a medical leave of absence from that career to kind of, reset myself. I was skinnier than I had ever been before in my life. I couldn't even fit in a double zero anymore. Mind
Right,
you, zero is the smallest size, right? If I could not fit in a double zero, there was a problem. There's
yeah.
something wrong here. And so I was petrified of leaving that job. I think sometimes we get so comfortably uncomfortable, in the
Mm.
uncomfortableness, we find comfort in that in a way. And but it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom, got in so much debt, was struggling with depression that I figured like, okay, I need to change something because I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die at this job. Yes. So
Okay, okay. So, which is an incredibly courageous thing to do, to leave it. It's an interesting one, actually. It is a courageous action to take, but clearly you needed to take that for your own health, your own, for you, because clearly that job was, from a health perspective and from a mental capacity as well, it was clearly not right for you. But to leave a good corporate job is not many of us do that. What were your family saying at the time? Because obviously you left this job and you decided that you were going to go to go on this 10-day meditation, which sounds crazy. What were your family saying at the time to you?
Honestly, I kind of kept it private because I, I was going on an inward journey. Like even though I'm out in the outdoor world going on these journeys, right, of the meditation retreat, it's very much so an inward journey. So I wasn't sharing it too much because I think I was afraid of my loved ones thinking they were going to lose me in a way.
Okay.
Right? Because if you shift and you change and you radically alter your own beingness, sometimes your loved ones get fearful of that because they know you as who you are and they're afraid of you taking risks and they're afraid of you trying new things because it might change who you are. So my boyfriend at the time, he was so against me doing all of this stuff. He was like, "No, you shouldn't be going there. No, you shouldn't be doing this. No, you shouldn't be trying to find yourself. You're fine just the way you are." But I wasn't. Like I knew that I was meant for more, and it was that candle that was burning inside of me that was so desperately looking to be acknowledged. But we deny ourselves the ability to look within ourselves and see, okay, is this my path? Is this my life? Am I on path? Does this feel right? And we deny ourselves the answers to these questions. And so we go down a path that we think we should go on, but that's not truly ours. Like we're capable of so much more. And even at that corporate job, there were so many other people that had to go on medical leave of absences that were dealing with serious medical issues because they were so stuck in that job. And mind you, now we're like 6 years later, they're still at that job. They're still at that corporate job. So it takes a lot of courage, right? To look at your life and say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And to step into your own divinity as a creator and realize I can shift my life, I can change my life, I can step outside of this. And yes, it feels uncomfortable, but it's necessary to become my truth again, to become my own authentic self again. So that's what I had to do.
Yeah, and kudos for you for doing that, because as you're describing that, I'm thinking about my own experiences and I'm thinking about experience of other people that I know. And I think it's so common for people to, life just happens and we end up in a job or in a situation. And even when it doesn't feel right, even when we so evidently feel lack, we kind of almost have resigned ourselves to that existence, to not even, we have these thoughts, but to ask the unrealistic thoughts about maybe the life that we want. So it's kind of there in the periphery for a while. Maybe it just goes away and we forget about it after a period of time. But I still feel that deep down we feel the lack, regardless of what job we're doing, regardless of what salary we're getting. When I get a tube, when I'm, in London, you get a tube in the morning, or you could be at a train station somewhere. You kind of look, you kind of scanning people, scanning the pic. Can I spot anyone that's smiling this morning? Can I can I spot anybody that's got a spring in their step? There might be one or two, but there's not that many. So yeah, so I love your journey, and I think it was such a smart thing to do where you're able to retain the bulk of your thought process to yourself. Because I think it can be very, it can be quite difficult. I think when we reveal what we're going to do, and others will invariably, maybe because they love us and they care about us, or it might be their own limiting beliefs that they might try and talk us out of it.
Yes. Oh, 100%. It's funny because sometimes people look at me and they're like, Valerie, you're such a happy person. Like people that don't really know me, they look at me and they think like I've never struggled before. But I think I smile so bright now because I've struggled so hard in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And it's yes, when you look around the world around you and you see people and you look at their energy and you look at their faces and like you're taking the train to work and you see people so stuck in that 9 to 5 hustle that they're so stuck in this pattern and this program that they're running on repeat that it's so hard to cut that program and to really step out of that and create a totally new reality because it's like you have to reinvent yourself. It's like you have to reinvent yourself from scratch. And sometimes that feels so overwhelming, but it can be so beautiful in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I think the idea to a reinvention does feel like a world away. And I think that, well, what you're going to give us some of the tools that we can implement to do that. But I think for a lot of us, and hopefully there's people that are listening to this already that maybe identify with this, and maybe they can think, actually, maybe they were thinking before they hit the record button that maybe that desired life that they've had on the back burner since they were, I don't know, they're in their teens, maybe that is available to them. And we'll get into that in a second. But what I do want to ask you about is that 10-day meditation, because I know that was that was full on. Can you give us a snippet of what was involved in that meditation?
Yes. So this was called a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And it's beautiful because it's totally volunteer based. It's totally donation only. So you don't even have to pay for it if you don't have any money. And they host this all around the world. So you can take this literally in any country. But I took it in Georgia. And when you first arrive at the retreat, you have to hand in your phone, any kind of electronic devices, even if you have a journal, a book, whatever you have, you give up all your belongings. The only thing you're allowed to have is your clothes. And so they wake you up at 5:30 a.m., not by an alarm clock, but by a gong outside of your bedroom window. And at 5:30 a.m., you have to get up and go to the meditation hall. And so they teach you different meditation techniques, but it's all about tuning into your own awareness and becoming still and becoming one with your own self. And for a lot of people, this can be very confronting because ask yourself, how many times in a day do I actually sit still with myself and my own beingness with my eyes closed? And so we did this all the way until 9:30 p.m. at night. We get a little breakfast break, a little lunch break, and then a tea break in the afternoon, no dinner. And in between, all you do is meditate. And let me tell you, the first day is like, oh, this is kind of cool, kind of exciting. Then the second day, you're like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? This is so hard. And then what you don't realize is how painful it actually is on your body to sit, with your
Definitely.
legs crossed on the floor, with your back straight, not moving at all. And by day 5, I was beyond miserable. I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna leave. Like, this is so hard. I don't know what I signed up for. I obviously did not do my research. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. But on day 5 was an incredibly difficult experience. Now, that night when I went to bed, something incredible happened. I had one of my nightmares. Now, I suffer from crazy nightmares. I have them once or twice a week. And it's like the type of nightmare when you wake up and you scream for bloody murder, right? So, in that nightmare, I was getting chased by several different black figures with a spear. And in my nightmare, I woke up as the spear like pierced my heart and I woke up screaming. And now I was so embarrassed because we're not allowed to talk to our roommates. Like, this is a silent meditation retreat. You're not allowed to make eye contact. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to say a word. So I was really embarrassed, tried to go back to sleep, but couldn't. And then the next day, something magical happened. When I sat down in the meditation hall and I started meditating, I started having visions. And let me tell you, like the visions were as real as looking at a movie theater screen, but of course, in my internal vision, right? In my mind's eye. And there was this Asian Zen master, that's the best way that I can describe it, came to me and he was holding the spear that had killed me the night before in my dream. And he said, "You have a question for me." And I was so caught off guard. I was like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And I said, yes, I have a question. I keep having these recurring nightmares every single week where I'm getting murdered. And he said, it is not the other people that are killing you. It is you killing off that old version of you that no
Wow.
longer belongs into your current reality. And he disappeared. And look, I have goosebumps just talking
Wow.
about it. It was one of the most incredible experiences that I've ever had. And this wasn't just the first, I had so many recurrences in this meditation retreat that happened to me. I have it on my full YouTube video. I described the whole thing, but it was the most incredible, life changing experience ever because now I understood, okay, in my dreams, I'm actually subconsciously rewiring myself and killing off those old parts of me that no longer belong in my reality, that need to die off literally in order for me to fully become me. Because we look at death as such a negative thing usually, but death is all about rebirth and rebirthing ourselves. And so after day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, 9, all the way to 10 was the most incredible experiences. I was able to overcome my pain. I actually had the experience of meeting God, and I had the most incredible remainder of the 10-day silent meditation retreat. And when I drove back home after the 10 days, I knew I could never go back to the life that I was living then, being broke, being miserable, being depressed, being in pain, being in a misaligned relationship, just being unhappy. And so that drive home was a drive that literally, like, I reinvented myself and I was rewriting my whole story in my head. So then when I came home, okay, I'm going to implement a new life.
Wow. So when you were delivering that wonderful story, the end bit I wasn't prepared for when you said that you were sort of removing that old life, that old persona, the old thoughts and feelings you had. So that's amazing. So was that, it feels like it was there's almost been like a pincer movement going on. So you go to this retreat, and was in your journey to becoming the wonderful person you are today, was that retreat pretty fundamental, pretty key? Was that maybe a watershed moment, or were there several?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I actually have like a whole like journal where I describe all of the little moments that happened in my life to kind of inch me closer to where I am. And so that was one of the pivotal moments that changed everything for me, was that 10-day silent meditation retreat. So if anybody's thinking about doing it, I say 100% go for it. It is not easy. It breaks you down before it builds you up, but it was one of those most pivotal moments in my life that changed everything. The next most pivotal moment was falling in love, meeting my soulmate. There's certain moments in life that just recalibrates you on like a cellular level. And that meditation retreat was one of those moments, most certainly.
Okay, okay, wonderful. So that happened, and then it's almost like the beginning of your new life, and the wonderful person you are today. So manifestation, the yoga retreat, was that manifestation? What was are these different? So that was meditation,
That was meditation, no yoga at all.
no yoga at all. So manifestation, when did that become a core part of your journey as well? And obviously you're helping people globally with that now, but when did manifestation become fundamental for you?
Yes. So when I came home is when everything changed for me. At that time, I was like doing a new job, but it wasn't very fulfilling. So I quit doing that. I was in that relationship. I quit that relationship and I wanted to start building my new life. And I was like, okay, how do I build a new life from scratch? And that's when I started implementing manifestation techniques. So from the concepts that I learned in that book, I learned to fine tune it. And every single morning, I did what I call my manifestation minutes morning routine. So every single morning, I took 1 hour. And if you don't have 1 hour, it's totally fine. You can take 5 minutes. But I literally took 1 hour. I lay down on my mat. I first did some breath work to kind of regulate my nervous system because when you're in a state of depression, it's very hard to manifest, right? So one of the number one things that I learned to do was actually first regulate my nervous system through breath work. And after I do that, I become aware, right? The meditation technique of becoming aware of my own awareness. Then I learn to tune into the field around us because everything is energy, right? This cup right here is 99.999% energy. So if I am energy and the air around me is energy and this cup is energy, we are all connected energetically through time and space. So once I started learning to tune into everything and connect to everything around me, I knew that there is no space and no distance between me and my soulmate, between me and $1 million, between me and my dream home, because it's all already out there. Does that make sense?
It
My
does.
soulmate,
Yeah.
my soulmate is somewhere out there. My dream home is somewhere out there. The money is somewhere out there. And once I learned to tune into and connect to that, then I started doing visualizations of bringing it closer into my reality. So then I started imagining my life with my eyes closed of what my dream life would look like. And every single day I did the same scenario. I'm standing on my driveway with the love of my life, holding his hand. We're walking through our dream home together. We pop a bottle of champagne. Then I go into the backyard because Oprah's there interviewing me. She's setting up her interview. And every single day, I visualize the same exact scenario. And it is incredible the results that started manifesting into my life after I started doing that every single day.
Wow. That's phenomenal. So you kind of answered the question, but I'll ask it anyway. So starting that process, clearly you were incredibly consistent and disciplined. Did you already, before you started the process, or when you were about to embark on starting that process where you had your daily routine, were you fairly assured or certain that this was the right approach for you? And did it just feel organically? Did it feel internally like this feels like my path?
Yes.
The reason I asked the question is because everybody that is listening to this and is looking for that is looking for a similar life transformation. It's like I'm excited by the idea that they can maybe adopt, the same type of discipline that you have, or maybe something that they identify. So I'm just wondering how you're able to be so certain and disciplined at the start.
Yes. Well, if you come from like 16-hour a day meditation to
Okay,
one
yeah.
hour a day, it feels like
See,
nothing, right? So to me, it was like, okay, because some people think, oh, I'm too busy to do this. Oh, I don't have time to dedicate to this. But you don't have time to dedicate to building your dream life. You see, we think we have to work at 70 hours a week at building our dream life. While it can literally take just a few minutes a day going internally. Because here's the thing, and here's the key. You don't change your life by going to the external world. You see, we think we need to go find that partner. We need to go get that job. We need to go and win the lottery. But it starts from within. It starts from within because it is your internal reality that creates your external reality. So to me, it was such a priority because to me, my life was such a mess. I knew I had to go all in on this in order to create the necessary changes. And I knew on like a cellular level that this was going to be the thing that would change my life. Like I knew it. I believed it so deeply. I had this deep level of knowingness that this was going to work for me. Like this was going to be the thing that would work for me. And funny enough, like a few months after that, I met my now boyfriend. And a few months after that, I became a millionaire for the first time. A few months after that, my life became so beautiful, so unrecognizable, all because I took the time to go inwards. And I understand some people don't have time to spend an hour. They can do 5 minutes when they're driving, 5 minutes when they're in the shower, 5 minutes when they're cooking. Because when we do these activities, right, we zone out. We access different altered brainwave states, right? Especially before we go to bed and we kind of drift off into bed. So I do this also every single night before I drift off into sleep. It's time you're already laying in bed, right? You might as well visualize your future reality as if it's already in the present moment, as if it's already here. So you don't have to dedicate an hour, but you can take 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes when you're waking up, and 5 minutes before you go to bed and implement this. And trust me, if you believe that this works, if you trust and know and believe that this will work for you, it 100% will. It 100% will.
okay, that's a wonderful endorsement. So I love this story. So something that you mentioned that I think I think it'd be quite nice to maybe give people a deeper understanding of. You talk about separation and lacking. Sometimes if there's something that we're looking to achieve, that sometimes there's a separation between who we are and maybe what we're looking to achieve. So the lack or the scarcity is still there. How important is that we bridge that gap?
Yes. See, we see ourselves as so separate as other things, right? But if you actually look through science, quantum entanglement literally explains this, right? That we all are a part of this fabric that we call life. But what we have to understand is if we feel separate and we feel that there's a distance or we feel like we'll never get there, we won't. Because matter if you believe you're right or if you believe you're wrong, either way, you're right. Correct? So it is a recalibration on three different aspects. We have to recalibrate our mind, right? The things that we believe, the thoughts that we think, the repeated, thoughts in our head. Like for example, when we go to the grocery store, oh, I can't afford that. Oh, I can't afford that. Oh, or if we're scrolling online looking for a dream home, oh, I can't afford that. Oh, I can't afford that. So if we constantly repeat to ourselves that we can't afford these things, then guess what? you won't be able to afford those things. But if you rewire your mindset and choose to think a new thought, choose to believe a new belief, you can start altering your mindset. And then after you alter your mindset, you have to regulate your emotional system. Because for me, it was a lot around when I lost my dad and when we lost all of our money. And that was such a traumatic experience for me, that for me, money was always linked to pain. Like money was linked to pain. And whenever actually I started first manifesting money, I made it disappear because I thought it would be so painful. Then if I one day have money again and I lose it all, it would be so painful that I prefer to not have money at all. So emotionally and energetically, I was actually keeping money out of my life. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing.
Okay.
I wasn't realizing that that's what I was doing. So it's so important mentally, emotionally, and energetically, even to regulate yourself to this new life that you want to live, or to the abundance, or to the love that you want to draw into your reality. So I call it getting into radical congruence, right? Getting your mind, your heart, your gut, your awareness to all agree to these new thoughts, to these new beliefs. So that's why it does take time. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not like, oh, let me do this once and I'm going to win the lottery. It's really getting into radical alignment again with the truth of who we are. Because really, before we learned all of these beliefs, before we had all of these thoughts, before we had all of these insecurities, before that was a time where we were infinitely abundant, where we
Yeah.
didn't have these thoughts, we didn't have these beliefs. So we kind of have to go back, right? And recalibrate ourselves to our original blueprint, which lives in unlimited abundance, which does not live in lack, right? But because my mom kept telling me, oh, we don't have money. Oh, there's such a scarcity of money. There's not enough money to go around. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is not a spiritual thing. We learn these things and we adopt these beliefs as if they were our own. But back in time, they are not ours. They're beliefs and thoughts of other people that we have made to be our own. So it is removing all of that garbage and that baggage and getting back to our authentic way of being. So that's what
Uh,
I teach.
okay. Okay. I love it. I love it. I'm sold. Do you have fun with it now? So as we all evolve as people, and maybe our dreams and desires evolve slightly. So when you've got something new that is on your horizon, it might be something to do with business, it might be a personal situation with yourself and your partner. Do you have, I say have fun with manifestation. I guess what I mean by that is that you've got this wonderful gift where you're able, how to manifest, you've got your habits, you've got your daily practice, and you know exactly what you need to do.
Oh my gosh, I have so much fun with this. And that's the thing. If you being in a frequency and a vibration of fun, that in and of itself makes you like manifest more. Like right before I came on this podcast, I had a knock on my door. And I open a door and there's the most gorgeous bouquet I have ever seen. That in and of itself is a manifestation, because in the two previous relationships that I was in, they were both 7 years long. So I was 14 years in relationships that were totally misaligned. I never got a gift. I never got a gift. I remember like one Christmas I got a tea kettle, and that was like this big, like, oh my God, I got something. But I didn't feel like I was worthy. I didn't feel like I was deserving of
Yeah.
gifts. And so in my mind, I wasn't worthy, I wasn't deserving. So I was blocking it from actually receiving it. And so now that I've recalibrated myself, I get gifts all the time. I get flowers, I get things, because now I feel so in tune with the abundance that's available to us, and I feel worthy of receiving it. So I think there's something so beautiful that happens when you have fun with life. You don't take it so serious. You play. You get back to being a little kid. You know, when I was a little kid, I got bullied so bad. I never enjoyed my childhood. Like my childhood, I'd rather forget about it. And so now as an adult, I am childlike now. I'm living out my childhood dreams because I am a little kid and now I get to play with life and I get to create and I get to be silly and I get to laugh and enjoy and play and create. And I think that is such a beautiful question, because I feel like more of us need to go back to that, need to go back to that childlike way of having fun with life and creating.
I totally agree. it just makes me think about, because we're all born with a blank canvas, so to speak, and through, I guess, relationships with first and foremost family and maybe people in our community, maybe people at school, we start to absorb information. And I guess at some point we're putting these limitations on ourselves. So it'd be lovely for this, the tools that you abundantly use to be used to kind of mitigate all the disserving tools, not tools, sorry, the disserving, I guess, barriers that we pick up along the way that can lead us down the wrong path.
Yes, 100%. I always say like we're like an artist and our life is our canvas. And when we stop and we look at the canvas that we created, right, our masterpiece, do we like what we've created or do we not like what we've created? But the beautiful part about life is we can paint right over it and start fresh and repaint our canvas, because a lot of people create a picture of what they think they should live. Like they live the life that they think they should live. For example, when I was little, I thought I was supposed to follow in my dad's footsteps and become a doctor. And I remember telling my mom, oh, I don't want to be a doctor. And I was her biggest disappointment. She was like, I wanted my baby to become a doctor. And I'm like, Mom, that's not my dream. That's not my dream. But here I was in college going through pre-medical because I thought that was my dream, but it was my mom's dream for me. It was my dad's dream for me. It was not my dream. So when we look at our life, like we have to understand so much of it is not really ours. It's not what we want for ourselves, right? So it is so beautiful as going back to that blank canvas, like you just mentioned, and kind of taking radical inventory of your life and saying, okay, this is what I created. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. And then kind of recreating the picture for yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I was just thinking about when we can maybe take stock and feel if we are in the right direction. How important is the energy that we feel towards our current lives or different components within our lives to see whether we're on the right track or not?
Yeah. So, some people feel like, oh, I'm so off path. But even being off path is being on path. Because I feel like the further that I felt like I was off my path, the further that kind of like, when you have a rubber band and you kind of pull it back to kind of create tension, I feel like the further you pull it back, meaning away from the point that you want to be at, the further you pull it back, the harder it's going
Yeah,
to actually
yeah.
shoot forward,
Okay,
right?
okay, yeah.
So I felt like the further I'm off my path, the more it's actually driving me and pushing me to be on my path, to be aligned to my purpose, to be living the life that I need to be living, right? So the further that I got away from it was the more it pushed me actually, the more it like razor sharp focus towards where I was supposed to head in life. So don't ever feel like I'm off path. Oh my gosh, I'm so off track. I've lost so much time. You're exactly where you're needed to be. You needed to learn all of these lessons to now push you forward to where you're meant to be. So I think that's my advice on that.
Okay. Well, would that be where we need someone like you to help us? Because you coach, you're an expert in manifestation. I know that you coach people. So I'm thinking about people that have listened to that and thinking they might think as they're listening to this that they may feel that they're off track. They may feel that they're not where they want to be, but they've got this, they're really inspired by what you're saying, and they may be thinking, well, I'd love to invest in that vision that I've always had, something that maybe when they think about it, they get excited. So obviously they can contact you, but what should they do if that's how they're feeling?
Well, the first step is like being on a podcast like this. For me, it was gaining as much knowledge as I could through books and podcasts, etc. But it's so beautiful when you have somebody by your side. It's like holding your hand and walking you through the process. So I do teach monthly classes absolutely for free. They're called like master classes, and I teach them once a month, and they're like on different topics. Sometimes they're about unlocking your millionaire mind, unleashing your dream life, Unlocking Unlimited Abundance. So once a month, I do teach a free course. So if people are interested in knowing more about that, they can contact me. But yeah, there's something so beautiful that happens when you're aligned to somebody that's kind of like a few steps ahead of you, because it makes you feel like, okay, if I follow X, Y, and Z, I can be there in just a matter of time. And so I needed something like that too when I was broke and I was just so stuck. And honestly, I had nobody in my life to kind of expand my own awareness to what's possible. I didn't know wealthy people. I didn't know anybody that was living their dream life. I didn't know anybody outside of my circle who my circle was all broke and depressed and unhappy, right? And it wasn't until I went to Unleash the Power Within and I saw Tony Robbins on stage and I saw what this man was doing for the world. And I saw the level of wealth that he had. I saw the relationship that he had with his wife. And I saw this mission and purpose that's like larger than life. And I was like, this is so inspiring. This is so inspiring. So then I started following more of Tony Robbins to follow in his footsteps and become more a little bit like him, to have somebody guiding you along the way. So I think it's always incredibly important to find that person for you, to find a mentor, to find somebody willing to take your hand and kind of walk you through it, because it can be a very lonely journey. You know, when I went through this, I stopped hanging out with all of my friends. I literally don't have a single friend from back in the day. I stopped my relationship. I quit my career. I literally gave everything up, and it was a very lonely road for me. So if I could do it again, I would find kind of like a circle of people that are like-minded in their mindset to kind of bring you through this process.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I've been to UPW as well, the online version. It was during COVID. But yeah, I'm just thinking as well around the decisions that you took, the wonderful decisions you took, the right decisions you took that have led to where you are today, just about job, the relationship, and maybe even friends, because you knew, I know what direction my life needs to go in now. So it almost feels that you, along your journey, that you just, you've had all these different moments of clarity. Do you ever think about, if you hadn't experienced the difficulties that you experienced, that maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation today, and you wouldn't have found your relationship and all the other amazing things that have happened since 2019?
1,000%. I always say, like, I feel like I've lived three lives, like the life when my dad was alive, then the life until I like discovered manifestation and discovered my own power, and then the life that I'm living now. Like my life now is so like mind-bogglingly different. It's unrecognizable. And I feel like I've lived different lives in this one life. And it's all because of the hardships. It's all because it all started with my dad passing away, you know? It's all because of the difficult, most painful moments in life, because those moments are just the catalyst to change. There's some things that happen so beautifully when death arrives in your life. When something dies, something blooms and something beautiful happens. It's kind of like the seasons, right? The seasons, when we go from
Yeah,
winter, the spring, and you can't stop the seasons from happening. And some people are like, they're so deathly afraid of winter to come. But no, when winter comes, then spring comes and everything blooms again. And there's something so magical and beautiful that happens when you surrender to life's rhythm, and the good and the bad and the ugly, and just kind of really surrender to it all. Because I guarantee you, when you look back at your life, you'll see the transformation that happened. You'll see the shift that happened. You'll see the awareness that you got through that experience. So it's about flowing with life and
okay.
allowing all of these difficulties to just happen.
I love that. I love that. Have you ever thought about people that, so definitely there's a lot of us that have challenges, and we're, our life isn't in alignment. Are there people, how would you describe people that they may be living their best life? Are they unwittingly manifesting their lives? I haven't asked that very well, but hopefully you'll be able to.
Yes, I
to
know
dig to the
exactly what
bones.
you mean. Because some people say, like, Valerie, how did Jeff Bezos get so wealthy? He doesn't manifest,
Mm.
right? So I always say there's conscious manifestors and unconscious manifestors. And so we're all manifesting all day long, all the time, through the being that we are, through the thoughts that we think, through the beliefs that we have, right? The only reason why some people struggle so much with finances and other people don't at all is the resistance that they place between themselves and that thing. And that is basically it. You know, I asked my boyfriend this not too long ago. He's a financial advisor. He's well off financially. And I said, "Honey, have you ever like struggled financially? Like really like struggled financially?" And he says, "No, I never have." And so it made me think like some people don't struggle financially, right? But they make a ton of money and some people do struggle so hard and they make a ton of money. It is all about themselves and their resistance between them and that object. Because if they feel like they'll never achieve that, they'll never have that, and their whole belief system and their program and their mental patterns are wired to restrict and resist that, or feel that there's a lot of space or time between that, or it's going to require a lot of time, hustle, energy, and effort, it's their own resistance that they create within their own selves that is either allowing them to achieve that or repulse them against that. So you always have to look at your own self, not the opportunities that I got or didn't get, or that life was hard or it wasn't hard, or, you know, I lost out on this or I lost out on that. No, it's all about you and the way that you handled X, Y, and Z circumstances that got handed to you. So, yes, that's a very beautiful question about being aligned with your manifestations or not.
Okay, no, I love that answer. So for people that maybe financially they're out of sync, they're not in the place they want to be. So for them to correct that, like your boyfriend, he's never had challenges there, and obviously you were able to navigate incredibly successfully the debt that you had, and now you've gone on to do wonderful things in business. So is that a combination of manifestation, visualization, putting ourselves, thinking about what we want, and removing the lack? What's the go? Is there a go-to exercise to get the ball rolling?
Yes. So, man, there's so many things. The first thing that you have to figure out is your why. I think before you do anything else, you have to understand why. Because a lot of people say, I want $1 million, but why do you want $1 million? What is the why behind that? Most people will say, I want the freedom of time, or I want to be able to quit my job and pursue my passions, or, you know, they want to be able to travel the entire world without having that restriction of having a job. So once you figure out what you want to figure out your why behind it. And you have to have that why that is so powerful that it will push you against all the odds, right? And then once you do that, I want you to create a list. And I want you to create a list with two different pages, right? So on page one, I want you to write down my current self. And I want you to list all of the limitations that you have, or all your belief systems or your thought processes that are keeping you stuck in your current reality. So, for example, for me, it was always like money doesn't grow on trees. I have to work hard to make a lot of money. I have to make a lot of sacrifice. Making a lot of money is going to take a lot of time, right? So I had all of these limiting thoughts and these limiting beliefs that were really blocking me from pursuing that thing that I desired. And then on the second page, you're going to write down my millionaire self or the self with my soulmate or whatever it is that you desire. You're going to write it on the top of the page. And then I want you to write down the belief systems that that person of you has, right?
Okay.
Because now I think I get paid just to be me. What a beautiful thought that is. But this version of me never thought that. I have to work hard. I have to earn money. I have to make a living. But now I believe that money is effortless. Money flows to me. Money comes to me. Money always comes to me in increasing quantities. And now I get paid millions just to be me. You see how that sounds so
Mm,
different?
yeah,
So you have
definitely.
You have to think about that version of you and then write down all of the thoughts, all of the beliefs, all of the patterns, all of the people that she would hang out with, what her life would look like, and be as descriptive as possible. And every day, try to eliminate as much from page one as you can. Try to catch yourself when you're thinking those thoughts and try to move the needle towards the person on page two and try to think those thoughts and believe those things and reaffirm and imagine and visualize. And trust me, you'll start moving the needle so fast.
Yeah. No, I see a clear separation between I guess, the current or maybe the former self to the present and future. Former is definitely lacking going on there. So I guess you can't, when you explain it, it feels so logical. But I guess that's, that this is your gig, this is your expert in this space. So the people that want to get in contact with you to find out more, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I have my website, valerieherrel.com. I'm also on Instagram at Valerie Herrel and on YouTube at Valerie Herrel. My email address is support@valerieherrel.com. So feel free to reach out if anybody wants to sign up for my free courses, my free master classes or webinars. Feel free to reach out and I'll add you to the list.
Wonderful.
So I'd be happy to serve.
Wonderful. I'll definitely put your links in the show notes. And I love your journey because it's 2019, it's not that long ago, pretty recent. And obviously I didn't know you then, but to feel your energy, your transformation, but also the fact that you're so invested in your journey, manifestation and helping people, because you can be forgiven for sorting yourself out and then just moving on. But you're serving, you're helping people, and the knowledge that you have about manifestation, but also about the impact that it can have on our lives is so powerful, because if we don't have the ability to understand sort of the internal, the external, all that stuff that I don't understand, but if we don't know all that, we are, there's millions of people across the globe that will never live the life that they can. And that is incredibly sad. So I'm so pleased that you're doing what you do.
Yeah. It's funny because I have this whole real estate portfolio and I make enough passive income to the point where I could have totally retired and not not done this at all. And it was funny because I was at that kind of decision point where I was like, okay, either we retire, we kind of pick up and we go start living in different countries, or like I invest myself in this. And to me, it was like every single day I couldn't stop thinking about becoming a coach. And it became like this obsessive thought because I do feel like everybody has the capacity to be living at their highest truth. And sometimes people just need a little bit of a remembrance or a little bit of a hint or a little bit of an exercise or a little bit of a needle shift to move into that direction. And so my goal was to help this entire world. And I was actually looking at volunteering with nonprofit organizations, but then I realized that the best way that you can shift this world into a better place is by untapping the untapped potential that's within people, within humanity. And when they wake up themselves and realize their own potential, they'll wake up the other people around them. And one by one, we're going to start like little light bulbs going off and changing this world altogether. And that is my mission. I don't do this because I need the money. I don't do this because I have to be a coach. I do this because I want to wake up to people to their own true potentiality. So that's why I'm here. And thank you so much, Paul, for giving me this opportunity to be on your podcast today.
No, you're very welcome. I'm thrilled that you're here. And I love that answer as well, because I love that domino impact effect. People that you've helped already, the energy and the people they are today, the ripple effect, it knows no bounds. Conscious of time, so I do have one last question for you. This is a recurring question. So if you could invite 3 inspirational people for dinner, they can be alive or past, who might you invite?
Okay, so I would definitely invite God. Is that allowed?
If God can go. I don't know what he likes to eat.
I would invite God, my dad, since I haven't talked to him since I was 9, and my boyfriend. And I would love to all sit together and join in together for a nice meal. Yes.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. And I'm sure they would love the story of manifestation. I'm sure most of those guys have been doing it before as well. So I'm sure you'd all learn a lot.
Yes.
Valerie, so pleased to meet you. Love your journey. Very inspired. And you've got a new fan. And hopefully we can have many more conversations because I know that you're going to be doing more amazing things in the near future and the long-term future. So it'd be lovely to stay in touch.
Yes, I'd love that. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of My Perfect Failure. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button. I'm always keen to grow the channel. And your feedback is very welcome. So keen to hear about the things you like and equally the things you don't like. So you can find me at paul@myperfectfailure.com, or you can find me via the feedback page on the website. So take care for now. Bye.
Thanks for listening to My Perfect Failure podcast. Be sure to visit www.myperfectfailure.com to join the conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Look out for our next episode.